set, go.
Yeah, whole team on a loose. Kick it up like Kung Fu. Untamed, yeah, cool. Running plays like who knew. Hella fast when I slide through. You would've thought we was in a zoo. Engine roar like a lion do. Yeah, devil, I'm a damn fool. Switching lanes, hanging out the roof. Tires screech when I bend the corner. All you see is a big poof. Then I'm leaving my initials. Street marks, I'm official. Taking off like a missile. You can hear the wind whistle.
Yeah, I don't think they ready. I don't really think they want it. I don't think they ready. Hey, yeah, I don't think they ready. I don't really think they want it. I don't think they ready. Ready, set, go. 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 Ready, set, go. 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 Get ready, set, go.
Get into it like pronto. Get hit with a combo. Do it large, real jumbo. So dirty like gumbo. Big money in a two-seater. Hair blowing, you see her. I got her, you need her. Never would I wanna be her. And I've been grinding all of my life. Now look at my sights. Mile high, I'm fly. Ride till I die. Look how I arrive like the president inside. See the look in their eyes.
I don't think they ready. I don't really think they want it. I don't think they ready. Yeah, I don't think they ready. I don't really think they want it. I don't think they ready. Ready, set, go.
Ready, set, go. Let's go.
Go.
On your mark.
Go. Ready, set, go.
Ready, set,
Go.
on your mark.
Go.
Let's go.
Go. Ready, set, go.
Yeah, and you know I like big coupes. Two-seater with the missing roof. Run the meter to a can't boot. I'm the best, got them all mute. Break the bank, talking big loot. Business talk, making big moves. Full tank, no I can't lose. Left them in the dust confused. All I ever did was break rules. Full throttle, I don't like cruise. Guess I got a couple screws loose. Son devil, I'm a damn fool. Ain't no telling what I might do. Taking off like a missile. Street marks, I'm official.
Yeah, I don't think they ready. I don't really think they want it. I don't think they ready. Hey, yeah, I don't think they ready. I don't really think they want it. I don't think they ready. Ready, set, go.
Ready, set,
Go.
let's go.
Go.
On your mark.
Go. Ready, set, go.
Ready, set,
Go.
on your mark.
Go.
Let's go.
Go. Ready, set, go. 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 Ready, set, go. 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 Ready, set, go. Go. Ready, set, go.
All right. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Ward Radio live stream. I am your host, Cardin Ellis, and today I am joined in the studio by a killer cast of friends. Actually, not in the studio. I'm sorry. I am joined via Zoom by a killer cast of friends. Luke, you want to get your camera on there, pal? I was about to introduce you. But it just there we are. All right, excellent. I am joined.
I'm in a house with like 20 people, okay?
Okay, cool. So I am joined, and also if you want to be right side up, we're making great first impressions here, ladies and gentlemen.
Spider-Man.
Hey, I was just being incognito. You're the one that brought me up, okay?
All
I
right,
don't take
so-
responsibility for this.
So we are joined by a killer cast of friends, none other than Jacob Hansen himself, Jonah Barnes, and our boy Luke Hansen here, and we are going to be reacting to this little bit of culture that just dropped a couple of days ago. I believe it was a day or two before Christmas. We're going to be reacting to the Joe Heschmeyer versus Jacob Hansen debate, and a lot of the, I don't want to use the word fallout, but I've been very, very surprised by the reactions that I've seen online thus far, guys. So I can't wait to get your opinion on that. Before we get started, just a couple of disclaimers. Our opinions are ours and ours alone. They don't represent the doctrine and the teachings of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints officially, though we are lifetime members of the church and are very familiar with them. Also, Catholics, we love you. I see that there's some Catholics in the chat, and we think you guys are awesome. Also, your church is awesome, and Cameron Bertucci is awesome, and Joe Heschmeyer is awesome. I kind of think I'd like to consider them friends now. You know, we spent a very long and arduous tour together of the church that I had no idea was coming, but was awesome. So in good faith, we're going to react to some of the reactions, and we're going to go over like the superfluous memes. I can't believe how starved the general public in North America is for debates, Jacob. I'll be honest, I thought this was going to be kind of like a little bit of a meh thing, but it became a whoa thing, which very much surprised me. So, yeah, and there's some things that actually very much disappointed me too. All these people accusing you of like dishonesty and lying. Like, I'm all about if you're not cheating, you're not trying, you got to fight as hard as you can, throw some elbows on the basketball court, even if it's some church ball, that you got to play hard. But I mean, you're lots of things, but dishonest is not one of them. So we're going to go from all the A grade to the Z grade stuff here and dive right in as we're waiting for people to come in. Before we get started though, Jacob, just tell us how you thought it went, my man. And then we'll just dive right in.
Yeah, I actually felt really good about the debate. I think it went well. I think I made the points I wanted to make, and people can watch it and decide, how it went. The thing I was surprised about, I was a little surprised that it was sort of a, Jacob is being unfair in the way that I approached it. One of the things that I've been hearing a lot of, and I'm, by the way, just so you know, I'm going to actually, I have no hard feelings towards Cameron or towards Joe. I think they're both awesome guys. I enjoyed hanging out with them. And we're actually going to have a conversation about this on Cameron's channel on Monday. We're going to be doing a live stream there,
okay,
kind of going over their reaction to the debate along with me, and kind of addressing this idea of if I was being dishonest or shady in some way in the way that the debate went down.
Wait, no. Okay, can I just jump in on that? I take such issue with that because we debated, did the great apostasy happen? Okay, well, just like if there's 10 links in a chain and one of them fails, the chain is broken. We believe that the great apostolic chain, the great authoritative chain, okay, the chain of the initial church that Jesus Christ formed. I'm just coming up with this analogy on the fly, so correct me if it's horrible. I'm probably going to get clipped by a million Catholics right now, right? But like this chain that was forged by Jesus Christ, okay, you only need one of those links to be severed until it's no longer the original chain. So it makes no sense debating the things that you think stayed intact on that chain. The faith chain was still there. The general populace of people that read about the life of Jesus Christ and wanted to emulate him and drastically change their lives in order to follow his example and reap the benefit of miracles in their life and reap the benefit of, a Christ-like behavior in their life, that didn't go away. The faith of the congregants didn't go away. But there's really only two churches on earth that claim, well, I shouldn't say only two churches on earth, but two, I shouldn't even say major. There's few churches on earth that claim a centralized authority similar to our prophet, similar to the Catholic Pope. So naturally, if you're talking about where the links in the chain could have failed, you'll go towards the one that is the most obvious, the most well-known, the most easily debatable. So of course it would make sense that a debate about the apostasy would end up resting heavily on the legitimacy of the Pope, which, by the way, when you learn a foreign language and you realize that's El Papa or La Fuerza Papal, and then you have to say papacy, like I always say papacy on accident. Or papacy. Yeah, sorry. In English, it's the papacy. So yeah, it's kind of wild. So I don't know, that always really rubbed me wrong when they said, oh, he did a bait and switch. If it were really just a bait and switch, you could get up there, say this is a bait and switch, and then keep going back to the topic, making the person look stupid. But it was always relevant, the arguments you made.
Well, and so here's my take on it. They're bringing up this idea that it was sort of a bait and switch because we were supposed to be debating the great apostasy. But the great apostasy, as we understand it in the church, is the idea that there is no continually existing institutional church. So I had the burden of proof of demonstrating that there is no continuous institution that has existed from the time of Peter to today without any breaks in it, right? Now, Joe, on the other hand, he would still have a burden of proof. He would have to show that that's not true. And the way that you show that that is not true is that you show an institution with a continuous existence going back to Peter. And he's a Catholic. So I was assuming going into this that the Catholic would come into the debate ready to show how there was a continuous institution from Peter all the way to Pope Leo today within the Catholic Church. And therefore that would refute the claims of a great apostasy. And Joe and others have said this, They said quite explicitly, if the papacy is true, if the Catholic Church is true, then there was no great apostasy. And they're right. I expected that what Joe was going to do in this debate was he was going to come and show that claim of continual institutional integrity all the way from the time of Peter to today existed. And so I was ready to come out guns blazing to show that that is not true. And so to me, that's now just to be fair, I want to steel man them for a second. They'll say, yeah, but Jacob, even if you disprove the papacy, that doesn't mean that there was no other institution. You have to rule out all possible institutions.
That's just a straw man of what the great apostle. Like, I really think, like,
but real quick though,
okay.
real quick, they're right about that.
Okay.
But that is to claim that the Catholic Church is not true and that some other church is true. What's funny is I actually believe the Catholics are the best option out there. Catholic
you mean aside
against...
from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, right? Because
right.
you probably just got clipped hardcore right there.
I
Man.
know, right? But in all seriousness, I came into this debate really feeling the strength of the Catholic claims. Like, Protestants don't have a leg to stand on. Let's just be real. And the Catholics admit that. Even Joe has said they believe in a great apostasy. The only other option and Joe was saying this, he's like, well, what about the Orthodox? You haven't disproved the Orthodox. And I'm like, no, Joe, the Catholics disproved the Orthodox.
So,
like, you guys do a great
this.
job of showing the Orthodox Church is lacking the fullness of the institution. Anyway, sorry, I'm on a rant.
No, imagine this. So Gavin Ortlund, he's big into like accretions, things the Catholic Church believes like icon veneration are accretions that happen over time. Imagine if he went and debated Joe about this, and Joe disproved his other ones, but then, Gavin's trying to argue there are accretions, Joe's trying to argue that there aren't, and then Gavin starts bringing up the Trinity as an accretion that happened over time, and Joe's like, what in the world are you talking, like, you believe that? And Gavin's like, well, I know, but you need to prove that it's not an accretion or else I win the debate. It's like, what? And everybody knows that would never happen, but for some reason, once the Mormon gets involved, it's like, oh, well, no, and someone was doing this on Twitter yesterday, like, well, of course I don't believe that the Eastern Orthodox have a valid claim to authority because they don't have a Pope figure, but Jacob was supposed to prove that in the debate or else he loses. And it's like, what in the world are we talking about here? Like, what? And I think it's because every time a Mormon gets on stage to debate something, suddenly the argument becomes, is Mormonism true? Like, they're not allowed to challenge any of your faith claims. The only thing that's allowed to happen is they just have to stand there and dance while you do like polygamy, conflicting verse vision accounts. And that's what Joe was doing. He was doing like, I mean, that's how he started. He said, well, there was like 2 accounts of the verse vision. Also, James Talmage said this thing. Also, Preach My Gospel says this thing, and it seems to conflict. So like, how are you going to deal with that, Jacob? Huh?
Well,
and what does that have to do with anything, Joe?
People act like I was being unfair by saying, like, look, if he talks about Mormonism, like, it doesn't have to do with the debate. My whole point in this was to point out that, look, if I was an atheist, genuinely, if I was an atheist, I'd still believe in the great apostasy, because the great apostasy is the claim that there was no continual institutional church. That claim is independent of if Joseph Smith was a prophet or not. And when Joseph Smith could be a false prophet, and there could still have been an apostasy, which is exactly what my position is.
Too. It's independent of Scripture too. And Joe wanted to go to the Scriptures, and Jacob was invincible to those attacks because he just said, "Look, bro, I'm not even talking about Scriptures. I'm just talking about history." And Joe was not prepared for that at all.
Well,
not ready for it.
I intentionally did that. I said, look, I don't need Scripture. I don't need Mormonism. I don't need any of that to demonstrate that there has not been a continually existing institutional church on the earth. And because now here's the thing. Actually, Cardin, could I go to the slides? Because I want to make sure people understand what I mean by this.
Yeah.
Now, people laughed at this idea of me asking, like,
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Jacob. Jacob, I got to interrupt you for 1 second. Before we move on, everybody here needs to know that Jacob's going to explain all this super boring logic philosophy stuff, but we're going to get to the memes, people. So you need to stick around. You need to like the stream. You need to share the stream, because there's like an avalanche of memes coming your way. So stick around. Jacob, back to the boring stuff.
So Cardin, I have some of those.
They're up. I got one up right now. The one that says the great apostasy.
Says the great apostasy on it.
And before I put this slide up, I just want to say I'm so glad that you made these slides, because there's two things that I realize as kind of like an outsider. I've never done a debate. I was actually talking with Cameron Bertuzzi, and he's like, yeah, I don't know if I'm a big debater. I feel like I'm better as a discussion guy or a moderator. And I feel that I kind of fall into that category as well. I'll probably end up doing a debate here or there at some point or at some time, but I think it's much more your natural aptitude than like mine. So I was with Cameron on that. Great guy. But I definitely did realize while watching the reaction that we have a lot of work to do, guys, because you think anti-Mormon evangelicals like Jeff Durbin with their silly green book of recycled photocopies can't name anything other than the most photocopied straw man of the photocopied straw man of the photocopied straw man, and they can't do interfaith dialogue without like recycling recycled tropes for the 15th time in the tumble dryer. Man, I was a little disappointed and underestimated. I think the average Mormon knows more of Catholic doctrine, Steelman style, than the average Catholic knows of Mormon doctrine, Steelman style.
1,000,000%. 1,000,000%.
Like it was they were almost angry that the debate didn't go the way they expected, because the way they expected was the way that has been disproven in all of their anti-Mormon theological books. And they don't realize that, no, like when we say the creeds are an abomination and the great apostasy happened, it's great because it's extended and over a long period of time, not because there was such a massive falling away that the world descended into a darkness and there was no Christ ever mentioned anywhere, and it was like Fallout 7 scorched earth. You know, like this wasn't a video game. This was an institutional loss of the church that Jesus Christ formed, and there's historical and scriptural markers to point to it. And then when he said that all of like not all, I shouldn't be hyperbolic, but that basically the most noteworthy professors in Mormonism are straying from this idea that there was an apostasy. No way. Every time they find a Dead Sea Scroll, Joseph Smith looks better. Every time they dig up a new lost apocryphal book, the Book of Abraham, the Book of Mormon doctrine looks better. Like history is making Mormonism look better, not worse. And we're leaning into the great apostasy. I would think, dude, just buy one of the last 3 books by Terrell Givens. Like The God Who Weeps was basically a chronology of how first they went after the nature of God. Second, they went after the nature of oh my gosh, just go read it, right? So that kind of blew my mind and took me off guard, that like we have a lot of work to do to actually say what we actually believe. So I'm glad you made these slides. The first one is up, Jacob. It's called The Great Apostasy. Hit it.
Great. All right, cool. So let's go. So the very first thing, some people kind of laughed at me about this, or kind of like, we're like, oh, Jacob's acting like Jordan Peterson, because I'm asking him, like, what is the essence of the institutional church? Okay, because if we're talking about the institutional church and it being lost, you have to understand, like, okay, is the Catholic Church without X? Or is, what, like for us, is our church the church without X? What is X? What is the thing? And there can be more than one thing, but let's just pick one thing in particular. And I'm going to call it this central ultimate authority. Okay. If we did not receive the keys of the kingdom, meaning the fullness of the keys given to Peter, then we would not have the full restoration of the church. That is what was restored, just so all Latter-day Saints are clear. Now, the Catholic Church rightfully claims that they also hold those fullness of keys, the ultimate central authority. Okay. Now, why is that important? Now, the Catholics will even admit this. This is the argument they make to the Orthodox and to the Protestants. Look, if you don't have an ultimate central authority, right, to guide the church, what you end up with is schism and doctrinal drift. Okay. So corruption of doctrine and division amongst the believers. Now, that's exactly what happened in history. So what is the great apostasy? The great apostasy is a historical narrative that says in history, what happened was the central ultimate authority was lost. And then because of that, you had division and doctrinal drift happen within the church. Okay. That's all it is. And that is what happened in history. It's just like, and that's what I wanted to show in there. Now the Catholic, to refute this, or anyone to refute it, will have to show that their church has that central ultimate authority, and that there hasn't been doctrinal drift and schism, and that original institution still exists.
Well, and when I hear them saying, Jacob, like, oh, and there's no scriptures that back this up, there's like 17 clauses in the epistles of Paul that, hey, whoa, you guys are doctrinally drifting here. Like, I heard that X doctrine was going out the door, Y way, and we got to set this straight. Hebrews, come on. Romans, come on. Corinthians, come on. I mean, we have entire lost books. Like, want to talk doctrinal drift? How about just entire loss? Where's the first book?
And Jacob didn't even have to go there. Jacob said, well, I'm not even going to go toe-to-toe with you on scripture. I'm just going to go to the irrefutable historical facts. And Joe was like, and I think it just blew him up.
Well, I don't know if he was like, but he's a very articulate guy. I happen to like Joe
Joe's
Heschmeyer.
A sharp dude. Now, real quick, Cardin, let's go through some of these other slides. So there's the centralized structure. I want to show what happens.
Yeah.
I want to show what this means.
Hit it. Let's go.
Because when you have a centralized structure, you have an ultimate authority. So if there's let's say that the bishops, I have all those little hats, little gold hats, those are the bishops. If the bishops disagree with each other, there's someone who is the ultimate authority. In our church, the ultimate authority rests in the president of the church. In the Catholic Church, the ultimate authority rests in the Pope.
No, in our church, it's the Relief Society president. Let's be real. Let's be real.
All right. So let's go to the next slide.
It's the bishop's outspoken wife who runs the show, right?
Let's see, when you have a centralized structure, what happens when there's schism in the church. Okay. Tell me when that one's up. I can't see what's on your screen.
So yeah, it says centralized structure, ultimate authority, boom. Centralized structure, schism. Okay, cool.
And then schism. Now look, if there's schism, if there's division in the church, you can still tell where the church actually is, right? You can tell who broke away from the church, because the central and ultimate authority is what holds the church together. Okay. Now let's go to the next slide. With an equalized structure, this is what happens when you have no ultimate centralized authority. Okay. All right. So do you have the equalized?
Yeah, it's up, bro. I got beat you to the punch.
So in this group, everyone is an equal. So here's the problem. Go to the next slide.
Okay.
When you have schism and there's no ultimate authority and everyone is an equal authority, you have a real problem.
And that looks like what really actually happened.
That's exactly what happened. There were only bishops remaining after the death of the apostles.
Yeah, like, so there's one church here. I see Ethiopic, Coptic in the 3rd century. I see here we've got Eastern Orthodox in the whatever century that was. Here we've got the 17th different Orthodox,
Now, so what Catholics did is they just took one of them that just happened to be in Rome, the capital of the greatest empire on earth, and they said, oh, this one is just better. It's just the best. It is the central authority, and elevated the Bishop of Rome to being Peter. And so Jacob is saying, show me where it does that. Show me where it's set, where Jesus says, or anybody says that Rome is the ultimate preeminent authority. And Joe couldn't do that. Nobody can do that.
Well, and also it doesn't mean that you're
exist.
like, in my mind, I look at this and like, we're not Protestants. We don't find a flaw in the history of the Catholic Church, and they use it as an example of how bad you are. Something I've realized as we've gone into this debate realm is maybe I'm just too romantic about come and let us reason together. Maybe I just have too much hope for humanity, right? Because and maybe I just had too much faith in the internet, all right? But I look at this and I think, okay, just because we can find a kink in your history and show that, okay, that the actual institution and the actual line of authority from Jesus Christ failed, doesn't mean that you are a failure. Your religion is still beautiful. It still drags thousands, millions of people every day out of the nihilistic, atheistic cesspool that is Western civilization. It defeated the Muslim hordes. John Sobieski. I am a descendant of one of the great Catholics.
John Sobieski, Chad, super
like
amazing
literally, like my Polish Catholic ancestors stood there facing the single largest military underdog of all time. Like freaking Osama bin Laden chose 9/11 to strike at the Twin Towers because he was pissed about, what was it, a 14th century beef? A 12th century beef? It was the last largest cavalry charge that stopped it wasn't the Ottomans, but they used to call
the
them
Turk. Yeah, 1683, the Siege of Vienna. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
September 11th.
Yeah, September 11th, 1683, the Siege of Vienna. Like, those were Catholics. They weren't Mormons. Like, we freaking love Catholics. And that's why Hugh Nibley, who was the cardinal that he met at Temple Square, and he sat there, and the cardinal looked at him and said, "You Mormons are idiots. You do not know what you have." Because
strength of your position.
Yeah, you don't understand the strength of your position, because it's either you or it's us. Now, that's a little bit binary for me. I think God's kind of like at the top of the mountain, and, Catholics, they're making it up. Jews, they're making it up. Sure, we can argue about how you get to the 3rd, 4th, and 5th tier of the mountain a little bit faster. That's fine, and I think the Book of Mormon takes you there. But, like, I don't look at some other guy climbing the mountain with me and think like, dog. It's like motorcycles. I love it when somebody gets a motorcyclist because now they're a motorcyclist. I think Harleys are better than, most bikes out there, but I'm not going to like straight up abjectively mock you because you drive a 2-stroke Yamaha. I'm going to fist pump you, say, rock on. You've joined the club. You get it. You understand the freedom of the ride, baby. And I'll let you.
And Jacob brought this philosophy to the debate in his closing argument. If I can glaze you a little bit here, Jacob.
Yes.
Fantastic. He says, Catholics, you don't have to give up anything. We love you guys. Your history is rich. And those martyrs, those heroic martyrs who died for their testimonies of Jesus, we venerate all of them. And that's the message we have to everybody and Roman Catholics. Look, Roman Catholics held back the Orcish hordes as long as they could. And they did as good a job preserving the truth as could be expected. And we're grateful they did. Like Christ says in the Book of Mormon, oh, so you love the Bible? And does that mean you treat the Jews really well? Remember that verse in 1 Nephi? He says, oh, so you say you love the Bible, huh? Why are you persecuting the Jews then? They gave you half that Bible. Yeah. Well, our Christian brothers and sisters, not just the Catholics, but they helped give us the second half of the Bible. So we cannot dismiss our Catholic or Orthodox brothers and sisters. We cannot condemn them. They're marvelous people. They are just as wonderful as their creeds are abominable. But we also have some super chats that we have to read before we get back to Jacob here. We're doing all Jacob's talking for him.
And by the way, Jacob, great answer when they approached you on the creeds are an abomination. That's something I think it behooves us as members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints to go out of our way to say, when we say the creeds are an abomination, we're not talking about your nationality, religion, or creed. We're actually talking about the actual creeds.
Yes.
Like there's that, like even when I was a kid and I learned that story, I was like, oh man, that one's kind of savage, dude. God was kind of rough in that first vision. No, it's we're talking about the actual creeds that were voted on by monks that nobody that believes in them can even name. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
it's all the creeds that ultimately change the nature of God and change your relationship to him. The creeds, here's the difference. If you want to summarize the creeds say you're not a child of God. And that's abominable. Okay. The creeds say that you're a creature that is created by someone who is some sort of a force in the universe that is very hard to say that he has anything, he's nothing like you. And we say, no, you're a child of God. Your divine identity is inherent in who you are and just needs to be unlocked and developed. And so, yeah, I have no problem saying that it's abominable to tell someone that you're not a child of God.
P.S.
I think that's a big problem.
P.S. Like, I'm actually really surprised that Catholics don't go after this more, like Catholic historians, because if you think about it, this is what I've always asked whenever somebody takes issue with the creeds. It's really funny when Protestants do it. I'm like, oh, you mean the Catholic creeds? So like you guys like boutique choose like what in history when you want to keep and then what like wasn't right. But anyway, I always ask people, can you name one person that was in the Council of Nicaea? Like outside of, St. Nick clubbing Arius, or outside of like a couple of famous bishops, nobody can name anybody that actually voted. And the fact that man saw fit to challenge the doctrine of God on earth, Jesus Christ, the fact that the arrogance of humanity to say, hold on, God, hold on, revelation given to Peter, for example. Like, imagine if the Jews, when Peter was on earth and came out and said, I've received a revelation, now we have to preach to non-Jews and Greeks. All of the unclean animals came down on a sheet and God told me, partake. And it was the hardest thing that I ever did in a freaking dream, but man, I partook and I saw that it is sweet, and we're gonna go out and we're gonna preach the crap out of those Greeks and those Sumerians, and this is a worldwide church now, baby. Imagine if the Jews would have come and said, whoa, hold on, Peter, hold on, chosen leader of the church after Jesus went into heaven. We're gonna form an ecumenical council. And we're going to invite all of the bishops from the surrounding 30 villages, and we're going to vote on whether or not we actually go out and we actually preach to the Greeks. Because there might be some angles that you weren't seeing here. There might be some, other perspectives that we need to include. So we, in this ecumenical council, we're going to vote on it, and that's the way it's going to be. The arrogance of saying, we're just going to vote on this, and the nature of God will be determined by non-prophets. Even after Jesus Christ has established a Godhead, we're going to make it a Trinity so we fit in with our Greco-Roman philosopher buddies. Like, the fact that like Christendom has just gone along with the creeds, not realizing, wait, that's just groupthink from the 3rd century. That's just groupthink from the 4th century. There's entire Tony Robbins books, like The Bay of Pigs. We almost started a nuclear war because of groupthink in the White House in 1960. And do you know who stopped basically nuclear war in the Cuban Missile Crisis?
Jacob Hansen.
No, it was JFK. When you study the hour by hour, like when you have a good centralized righteous authority, and I'm not saying everything in his life was righteous, but John F. Kennedy stopped nuclear war when every single one of his advisors that were voting on it were saying, you need to launch those nukes now in a preemptive strike. And if it were not for the goodness of John F. Kennedy and his power as commander-in-chief as the centralized authority, groupthink would have brought us to nuclear war, and who knows how many millions of people would have died. We don't know if Jonah would have been able to go to the frickin' Siberian mission in the early 2000s, and we don't know if the city I live in, Los Angeles, would still exist. If not...
Okay, all right, hold on. Don't glaze the Russians too much, right? None of those nukes work. They're held together with chewing gum baling wire. They're powered with vodka fuel. Those things can't launch. That's why they never launch them, because they know they don't work.
Could I real quick? There's a comment in the chat that I think is I've seen this brought up a lot.
Hit it.
And I feel like I want to address it.
And then we'll do super chats. Important. Then we'll do super chats in the first 3 rounds of memes.
Okay.
And then we'll
so Scott Crate says, because of the debate question, the burden of proof rested on Jacob. He tried to shift that burden. Not a good debate. Now it's interesting. Benjamin Edwards here in the comments says, Scott, no, the burden was on Jacob to prove a lack of linkage between Peter to the modern papacy, which he did. Now, I want to comment on this for a minute. The debate question that we agreed upon was, are there good reasons to believe LDS claims about a great apostasy? Okay, so I believe that the good reasons are historical, that when you look at history, it supports the LDS claims that there was a lack of continuous existing institutional authority within the body of believers. Okay, so my burden of proof, like this is where people get confused. I was being asked to prove a negative proposition, the lack of something. Okay. So I had the affirmative position on a negative claim. Joe had the negative position on a negative claim. He said, no, there was no lack of institutional sort of continuation. So what happens when you get two negatives? You get a positive. In other words, he has to show so we each have a burden of proof. My burden of proof is to show that there was no continuing institution. How do you refute that? Well, Joe would have to show a continuing institution.
Okay.
And as a Catholic, I was under the assumption that the one that he would go with was the papacy. And so I went hard after it. And I said, as a Catholic, Joe would have to show the continual existence of the papacy in order to win the debate. That isn't me shifting the burden. That's just me explaining what each of our burdens are. I have to show that it's broken. He has to show that it's continuous, or, which is really awkward for a Catholic, or he has to point to some other church that is an actual real possibility. But
I got a question for you, Jacob. Did you, when you received the priesthood and you got the laying on of hands, you received the Aaronic priesthood, did the person that gave it to you give that little card that says, like, I so-and-so got my priesthood from so-and-so, who got their priesthood from so-and-so, that got their priesthood from so-and-so, that got the priesthood from Joseph Smith in 1830, whatever, who got it from Peter, James, and John or whatever, so you could sew the continual line? Okay, so I didn't get that, but, like, my teacher's quorum teacher had it or whatever, and he showed it to me.
You can get it online.
Oh, you can get it online? Okay, cool.
It's pretty cool.
Do Catholics have that? Like, I know they've got really awesome
yes.
records.
So this is the thing, though. You have to understand.
Can't you just take that graph? If they're saying, like, okay, so Pope Leo got it from my boy down in Argentina, Argentine Pope, shout out, rock on, you know what I'm saying? Who got it from, John Paul II, who got it from boom, 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 boom.
Yes.
Can't they just go?
Okay,
I was expecting this to be a history
Yes,
match.
they can. Here, I'm gonna tell you something. The Catholics can trace a priesthood link all the way back, I think, realistically, all the way back to Peter. But here's what they can't do. Remember, Peter appointed bishops as local authorities. Okay? Nowhere did they, just because you get ordained as a bishop doesn't mean that when the apostles die, you then are now an apostle. Okay? There's a difference between receiving local jurisdiction from an apostle, which I believe Linus did receive, and then Clement, and then on and on and on, all the way till today, along with the Orthodox churches as well. That's not my point. If you go back to the slides I said, it's the ultimate central authority that was missing from the church. And so the idea is, see, it's too simple to just say, well, did the priesthood go all the way back? That's not the right question.
No, I get it. You're saying that
the question
Christ
has to be,
Church...
does the ultimate central authority go all the way back? Because that is the binding authority that is the essence of the institutional church. And because without that central authority, you don't have the church.
Okay, now, but that would be assuming...
In its fullness, I mean.
Okay, but that would be assuming, and I'm going to use the big debate word now, because I've listened to enough of these that I know presupposing is what you're supposed to say. So that presupposes, though, that things can't change, because if Catholics could show a revelation to one of those popes that says, okay, God wants his church to decentralize now, just like we changed through modern revelation, the idea that the gospel is only taught to Jews and now it's going to be taught to non-Jews and Gentiles. We've also received another revelation that enough with centralized authority. We want to decentralize this and give it to the bishops. There's no evidence that that happened. And so in the lack of that, you're saying the decentralization of power led to now a strongman rising in the Bishop of Rome, which kind of is reminiscent almost to, like, Arab warlords that just end up becoming the dictators of their countries because they just had, like, a bigger local army, and they just ended up kind of like killing all the competition. And before you know it, they're the guy in the uniform just saying, I'm the president of Libya now, right? And I know that's a rough and a bad comparison.
Again, it all comes down to this idea of ultimate central authority. Did that continue all the way through? Because if you don't have a central authority, what happens is exactly what happened in history. You end up getting bishops who disagree with each other, and then they end up dividing from one another over their disagreements over doctrine. And that's what happened. And that's what continues to happen. You literally right now have, anyway, I could go into it, but that the problem of schism and doctrinal drift is what you get when you don't have this central authority. That's why the institutional church must have an ultimate central authority. So the only question is, did that continue? The only church on earth that claims that it goes all the way back to them in the ultimate central authority is the Catholic Church. Therefore, the only church that I wanted to disprove in that debate was the Roman Catholic Church, because they're the only ones who have a legitimate claim to the ultimate and central authority that was once held by Peter. And they don't hold it because the only authority that Peter ever gave and the apostles ever gave was an ultimate central authority. They only gave local authority to the local bishops, and eventually those bishops couldn't agree with each other, and they began to divide and split up. And that narrative, what happened in history, is what we call the great apostasy, was that dividing and watering down of the doctrine without the revelation from the top that held it all together through the central authority.
Well, also, to me, it's just like the evidence of what you call doctrinal drift is just self-evident. Just look around you.
Yes.
Like, look at...
It makes my brain melt. It's like, have you guys really never heard of this before? Like,
well, just also like I love all the smells and the bells and the and the opulence of Catholicism. If I weren't Mormon, the only camp that I could see myself resting in with any relative comfort is the Catholic Church, and I love it all, right? But it's like you can't watch the opulence of all the bishops coming together during conclave. And the world, like, you can't see the Pope and then like watch The Chosen with like Peter in a burlap sack and leather sandals. You know what I'm saying? And then you can't watch the coronation ceremony. Okay. So right before Jesus Christ declares Peter as the rock upon which I will build my church, which is
correct,
Catholics,
by the way.
Yes.
The Catholics are correct. Peter was the ultimate central authority of the church. That's why Jesus called Peter specifically and called him the rock, because without the rock, all you get is division amongst the body.
Okay, no, I get that, but I'm just saying, like, when you read the New Testament and you see how, like, just literally within days of saying that, like, Peter, you're the rock upon which I will build this church when I am gone. Jesus Christ was submitting himself to like the humiliation ritual of having to freaking carry Roman armor, not just 1 mile, but 2 miles. And you can't watch those 3 episodes of The Chosen, right? And then flip 3 channels over to the coronation ceremony of the modern Pope and just be like, there's a drastic difference here between the opulence of C-SPAN and what I just watched there, and you know what Dallas Jenkins just did, piecing together the entire New Testament, right? So it's like, that doesn't mean you're bad. That just means, okay, like over time things changed, and in our arrogance and our presentism, sure, we want to go nitpick history, but dude, sometimes the Catholic Church was fighting to survive. You know, sometimes like entire civilizations were just wiped out through conquest back then. And the fact that Catholic Church has lasted nearly 2,000 years is just also another self-evident evidence that God cares to preserve it and is actively involved in the lives of Catholics. So like, we're all friends here. Let's chill out. Nobody's lying. Nothing is existential. You know, like, I don't know. When it got all existential, I was just like, I got real uncomfortable real fast, man.
Well, and just so people are aware, like, and with the Peter rock thing, somebody I saw in the comments said Peter is not the rock, Revelation is the rock. Actually, both are the rock. Peter was the one who could receive the binding revelation for the church at that time. And so he was ultimately the head. The problem is that authority, that central authority, was never passed on. There's no indication historically that it was. There was no centralized leader in the church anywhere that you could even claim before Constantine, not even close. Everything's the exact opposite. But real quick, again, to the burden of proof, I want to hammer this home.
Yeah, okay.
I was not shifting the burden of proof. I was explaining the burden of proof we both have. I have the burden of proof of showing that this central authority didn't have a continual existence. And then I was saying, and Joe, as a Catholic, has the burden of showing that it exists within the papacy, if the Catholic Church is what it claims to be. And so I don't know why Joe didn't think that I would go that route. I think he understood the apostasy to mean I believed in the complete end of all believers, like the body of Christ died, the bride of Christ was. He said that in his video on the Great Apostasy. Like that was his understanding. So I don't think Joe understood that the Great Apostasy is not a belief that all believers in Christ disappeared and the body of Christ died, but rather that the institution, the centralized ultimate authority in the church, was lost, and then that led to schism and doctrinal drift, just as the Catholics say will happen if you didn't have a pope. So we're like on the same team here. I just think he didn't understand, like he didn't realize that was the angle I was going to go, because I don't think he understood that that's what the essence of the apostasy is for us. It isn't this end of all believers.
It was a wonderful debate. I showed it to my boys as motivation. I said, guys, this is why you do your homework. Don't be like Joe.
Oh,
do your homework, kids. It was a good object lesson. Okay, but we got to do some super chats, blah, blah, blah. And then we got to get to the memes.
Okay,
right.
Well, before we go, you're the meme master yourself, Jonah. But I finally made my own, and you guys are just going to have to watch it later. But Jacob Hansen committed a small but grievous error. He said that Peter was the rock, taking the Catholic position.
Oh.
And then somebody else pointed out that no, hold on.
Dwayne Johnson.
That Revelation is the rock. And I actually bring the true doctrine that Dwayne the Rock Johnson. Now, I just went to Midjourney and typed in Dwayne the Rock Johnson as the Pope. And I got to tell you, it's a movie poster, bro.
It's amazing.
It's an amazing movie poster right now. Dwayne the Rock Johnson as the Pope is actually, I think Catholics need to aggressively proselyte to Samoans, because we got our first American Pope. We got our first Argentine Pope. If we got our first Samoan Pope, if aliens invaded, they would just go back. They'd be like, we saw their Pope. He's got freaking tats. It's over.
Looks amazing. He's missing the hat, though. You have to have the giant, Peter walked around Galilee.
Yeah.
In that burlap sack, but then he had the 18-inch giant gilded hat with pearls all over it too. You forgot about that.
Okay, so let's go. Please tell me these memes are nice and they're not your savage memes. And we also got some from around the internet, right?
Okay, well, first to some super chats though. Should we do that first?
Yeah, super chats. Okay, so we're gonna go to the top.
Let's talk with Hayden Carroll. Everybody should go subscribe. Says Joe upset Jacob didn't make the arguments he wanted. I think Joe's upset because he got pantsed on live television.
Oh, jeez.
Eth Pilot says, Jacob casts a spell on Cameron at 1 hour, 7 minutes, and 24 seconds during Joe's Cross X LOL. You can go see the full debate at Capturing Christianity. You can go watch the debate. It's worth a watch, guys. It's worth a watch.
Can I address real quick in the Cross X? I made a video about this, but I feel like it needs to be mentioned. People are like, when did the Catholic Church begin? And I said, well, its latest iteration, 1965. Obviously, I'm joking, guys. But what I was trying to do is to get Joe to describe, what do you mean by the Catholic Church? Now,
right.
You're going all Jordan Peterson. It's like, no, because if we don't understand what you mean by the Catholic Church, then I can't say when it began. Because if X characteristic is essential to the Catholic Church, and the X characteristic is the papacy, right? If you don't have the papacy, you don't have the Catholic Church. And I wanted Joe to say that, because once Joe could say that if you don't have the papacy, you don't have the Catholic Church, then I could say, well, when did the papacy begin? It certainly did not begin in the first 3 centuries of the church. It began much later, and there's a lot of debate on when exactly that happened. But it is true that the papacy, as understood today, wasn't dogmatically defined by the church, the Catholic Church, until 1870. But still, now I would say that they still had an implicit sort of belief that the Pope had all this infallibility and other stuff. But if you go back to 1100, that's the reason that the Orthodox bishops all split off from Rome. Because they're like, Rome, you're trying to claim that you have this central ultimate authority, but We didn't get that memo for the last
Right.
1,000 years.
No one did. Right.
Nobody did. That's why they broke away. So I actually think the more accurate reflection of the history is not that the Orthodox broke away from the Catholic Church. The Roman Church broke away from the Orthodox churches by claiming that they were the ultimate and central authority of the church.
They pulled a Napoleon. They said, "Oh, I found this crown and I'm making myself emperor." That's what the Bishop of Rome did.
Yep.
Okay, so ASK podcast. Good job on the debate, Jacob. Don't always agree with you on some things. Flood. But still, thanks for your insight.
Wait, we skipped a
Swenson
couple here.
Bailey.
Hold on a second. Let's talk with Hayden Carroll. Said Joe upset Jacob didn't win the argument he wanted. I just want to address one thing on that. It's been really disappointing. I thought we kind of became friends with those guys and I was enjoying it. And then like hear him accuse you of like lying and saying, oh, well, he's either ignorant or he's lying or like he's deceptive. I'm like, that was so hard to hear because I'm like, I agree that Hayden said a lot of people reacting to this were upset that you didn't make the arguments that they wanted because so much of North American Christianity, whether it's Protestant or whether it's Catholic, in their desire to apologetically combat what is a massive exodus. Like there's 16 million of us now, and that happened in 200 years. That's equivalent to the growth of early Christianity in the Greco-Roman world.
Which
right?
I found kind of funny because in the debate, Joe was saying that the evidence for the early Christian movement was this rapid growth. And I was literally like, does somebody want to tell him that we've grown as fast, if not faster, than the Christianity in its first 200 years?
Well, and so
there's more. Yeah.
So when I look at that, I feel kind of like there was a bunch of Protestant ministers and then there was a bunch of Catholic priests in the 19th and the 20th centuries that just saw less the Catholics because they're much more confident in their position, I think, as a worldwide church. And this little happening in North America, I don't think was really on their radar until, frankly, recently, the past like 40 or 50 years. But we sure as heck have been on the radar of the North American Protestants for the past 150. So there's a lot more anti-Mormon evangelicalism out there than there is anti-Mormon Catholicism. And so I would say this, that like, Catholics seem to be kind of adopting, just like kind of co-opting a lot of the recycled tropes and the misunderstandings of anti-Mormon Protestantism, which is really just a straw man of our history, our intentions, our motives, and our doctrine that was cobbled together by a bunch of like 1840s ministers are like, holy crap, my entire congregation just joined Joseph Smith in Kirtland, Ohio. We lost 20% of our tithing in this district. Like, what can we do here? Book of Mormon, give me a page after all that you can do. See, they don't believe in faith and works. See, they believe that they earn heaven. I'm going to write a book on it, give it to y'all. You're going to stay, and your tithing staying too, right? Okay, good. Whew, okay. Now that we got that handled, like that it seemed below them. So anyway, let's burn through the super chats. ETH Pilot says Jacob cast a spell on Cameron at 107:24 during Joe's cross examine. LOL. That's funny. To mimic Trent Horn, if the Book of Mormon is true, Catholicism is false and the apostasy happened. The Book of Mormon is true, so Catholicism is false and the apostasy happened. Thank you, Swenson. Sneak 229. This is the one you missed.
Real quick. Just two quick comments. Number one is that yes, I want to say that I was a little taken aback by their comments about like, oh, Jacob was being dishonest or something. But I want to let everybody know we've agreed we're going to have a conversation. Hopefully, try and clear the air a little bit on this. And I'm hoping to make them understand why I went the way that I went. And actually, what Swenson just said is very important. Remember, the idea here is, and literally Trent Horn said this in my debate with him. If Catholicism is true, the Book of Mormon is false. Well, certainly, if Catholicism is true, the Great Apostasy never happened.
Right.
Like, at a minimum, you guys, at a bare minimum, I have to debunk the papacy if I'm going to claim that there was a Great Apostasy. That's a minimum bar that I have to get over because the papacy is a direct refutation of the Great Apostasy if it's true. And so if you're going to say, like, so there's sort of this, why is Jacob going so hard after the papacy? It's like, well, because it's literally proof that there was no Great Apostasy if it was true. So I was a little surprised that Joe, he seemed a little, like, I don't understand why Jacob's sort of going this route of going after the papacy. When I'm like, I don't know what else to go after.
Yeah, what were you expecting? My brain was melting. All these Catholics in the comments, how dare you talk about the papacy? What do you think the great apostasy is? It was just the most crazy.
Well,
thing.
by the
All
way,
right.
they've never been Mormon missionaries in a largely Catholic country, and seeing how readily Catholics adopt Mormonism, because the narrative makes absolute sense. God has to exist. Jesus Christ was real, and I love what he does when I follow his teachings. But the church I go to on Sunday now is obviously not the church I'm reading about in the New Testament. And so if you're saying there was a great apostasy, and there's all of this, like, there's entire National Geographic 30-minute specials translated into Spanish about all these truths that were lost out of the Bible. Like, I mean, you're looking at half of the History Channel. I'm not saying the History Channel is like reputable archaeology here, okay? But like, this is not a stretch, okay, when presented in its true form. And it seems like there was a lot of people that were very frustrated that since that Jacob Hansen didn't go out and say Joseph Smith is better than the Pope and we all should be practicing polygamy, that now all of a sudden he's being deceptive. And it's like, no, this is just like The Devil Wears Prada. There was a moment where Anne Hathaway, she's learned to dress hot. She's learned to actually who the designers are. And she goes to the one runway pre-show where Meryl Streep's character looks away, showing that she didn't like a dress. And everybody in the room is just devastated. And Anne Hathaway says, wait, what? Just because of one person's look? And then Meryl Streep's assistant, I can't remember the name of the actor, but he's a great actor, walks out and he says, you don't get it, do you? Like, her opinion is the only opinion that matters, right? In all of Christendom and declaring who has authority in Christendom, don't you get it? Who has the central authority if Jesus Christ gave out central authority is the only question that matters. That is the Devil Wears Prada of apologetics. So if you're ever going to argue between two churches that claim to have centralized authority, there will be one topic du jour that matters and is central to that debate. And that is, can we legitimately claim this more legitimately than you can? And it's that simple. With us, it becomes an appeal to epistemology and how can you know the truth of God. With them, it becomes an appeal to history and scripture and archaeology, saying, no, actually, look, through these, creeds and these thises and these that's. And now it's up to the person watching the debate to believe them or not. And I would say there's a debate that happens every single time a Mormon missionary meets a Catholic in South America. And that debate is largely won. Generally, when people start diving into the history of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and the history of the Catholic Church with a layman. And that's not to besmirch Catholics. That's just to say what all of us have lived as we served as missionaries in largely Catholic countries.
Yeah,
So,
it shows how ignorant they are of our doctrine. Now, the next super chat, it's a little bit harsh. I don't want to insult Jacob. Somebody in the comments is trolling. He says, Jacob is the goat. Guys, this type of insult is really beneath us here. Okay? Name calling like that. He doesn't look like a goat. You don't look like a goat, Jacob. Don't listen to them.
yeah, goats have hair.
Goats have hair.
Exactly.
So Jacob is the goat of LDS apologetics and cooked in his debate with Joe. I guess cook means something that's good, I guess. Dragon's Lair says, we will always win debates with others because we have Temple Rocks. Only we are based with Temple Rocks. Merry Christmas. We need you out in Pennsylvania. Capybara says, technically, since Hiram Smith was the head patriarch and the Pope is the Latin version of the head patriarch, then he was also our one and only Pope. I like this. I like this. Redemption for Hiram. Jordan Brotherson says, just want to say, bought Key to the Keystone. I completely spaced using the promo code, but that's okay. You deserve every dollar, Jonah. Thank you very much. Taylor Callie says, went to my first debate, spent 90 minutes sitting behind and staring at the back of Cardin's head. Nothing but love. Jacob killed it. Really disappointed in Joe's post-debate behavior this last week. Post-debate behavior. You spelled tantrum wrong. Travis X says the actual attempt to shift the burden was not Jacob trying to get Joe to defend Catholicism, but Joe shifting the topic to make Jacob prove Mormonism rather than the great apostasy. Though, actually, Travis, you could be right about that.
Let me make a quick point on that. I actually think that to some extent is true. Again, there is sort of this assumption that Mormonism was on trial. It wasn't at all. Even right. LDS. Remember, the subject of the debate, just so we remember, let's get very specific. The subject of the debate was, are there good reasons to believe LDS claims about a great apostasy? So I'm saying, okay, you have the LDS claims about a great apostasy. Well, what are the reasons to believe that those claims are actually true? And for me, it was just like history. History is the thing that supports these claims. Right. And so they wanted me to argue that the LDS claims themselves, like certain interpretations of scripture or whatever, that those were actually true. And I have mixed feelings depending on, there's been good arguments for the great apostasy and there's been bad ones. I'm not defending all of those. I'm literally just saying history is the reason to believe that this narrative about the loss of centralized authority leading to doctrinal drift and schism is true if you look at history. And so I was just like, Mormonism isn't relevant to that question in the sense that Joseph could have been a liar and he didn't actually restore the church, but the church was still lost.
Yeah, right, right.
And I believe that, by the way.
Jacob, you can say this 1,000 times, and every time you say it, everyone just goes, well, duh, right? Like I'm telling this to my children as they're watching the debate, and I'm just like, I guess I don't know how to explain this. So I'm not saying you're stupid, because it sounds like I'm insulting your intelligence. But if A doesn't equal B, then to prove the opposite, you'd say A does equal B. And Joe Heschmeyer's head explodes. I don't understand.
Well, and here now there is one thing that he had pointed out, and others will point out. They said, look, just because you prove that the papacy is false doesn't mean that there was a great apostasy. And I actually think that is correct, unless the papacy is the only option in town. And right. My point is, I believe that.
It is.
I do think it's the only option in town. The Catholics are right. When they say to the Eastern Orthodox, you don't have the fullness of the institution, I'm like, yes. When they say to the Protestants, you're just like a bunch of children that got angry at the Pope and ran off and did your own thing. Yes. You like these other institutions don't have what the Catholics claim to have. And that so the Catholics are right. They're the only real legitimate game in town for establishing the same institution that existed in the New Testament, because the institution in the New Testament had a centralized ultimate adjudicator in the person of Peter.
And again, like that's also like when apologetics just becomes like like you have to have a team and you have to have a tribe. So I don't mind that in apologetics there are some team sports. I'm very loyal to my friends, for example, right? But at the same token, it's like it has to be more than a team sport if reason is involved, and come let us reason together. There has to be like centralized facts and syllogisms and just ethics that we agree on. And for example, I agree with you that I think the least philosophically coherent Christian theory out there is Protestant. I believe that has the least scriptural and historical basis, and the data doesn't really support it. But I'm super grateful it happened, and I love those guys, because let me tell you, Catholicism could not have settled the frontier like Protestantism did. That fracturing, of the centralized authority, and then now the appeal to scripture made it so that these freaking warrior priest mountain men could cross the plains and basically say, I'm going to build a church here out of nothing, and this is my authority, and then I'll just slam the Bible on the ground. Like, we already tried colonizing North America Catholic style, and it literally just led to colonialism. When you have a central authority, oftentimes it becomes very, very tempting, and we notice this with Mormonism in Utah, it becomes very, very, very tempting to view everything outside of the Vatican or outside of Salt Lake City as, wait for it, because you guys all live in it, what do they call us? you guys all live in the mission field.
Oh,
You
yes,
know,
right.
yeah, like it's very easy to think that, okay, well, we're a worldwide church, but like we're really the Roman church and the Italian church, and you all live, by the way, you're not a real priest until you speak Italian. Like, let's just be honest. And
Well,
also,
and-
you're not like a real Mormon until like, you've made the homage.
You speak
to Temple
Deseret.
Square.
I'm a big fan of Protestantism in this sense. The church that existed, the Catholic Church that existed in the 1400s was nuts.
Yeah.
Okay. It was not a good institution. I'm not a fan. And the Protestants were right to pull out their Bible and say, hey, do you remember like that the prophets actually said stuff and that you guys are contradicting all of it and you're full of crap and this is horrible what you're doing to people? And they basically reformed the Catholic Church into what it is today. And even in its latest iteration, like I'm a massive fan of Vatican II, which was their recent sort of Reformation effort in the 1960s that produced sort of the Catholic Church in its form that it is today, which is far better than the church that existed in the past. And it came because of the pressure from the Protestants. So Protestants, they get major credit too. The way I look at all of these groups is, look, these are all believers who are trying to follow Jesus.
Yes.
Okay. And you know what? The Protestants make progress in certain areas. The Catholics make progress in certain areas. The Orthodox make progress in certain areas. But they're all part of the body of Christ, but what they lack is the fullness of the institution. That is all we're claiming as members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. We're saying the fullness of the institution has been restored. Now come and join us and build the kingdom of God in preparation for his second coming.
Before
That's our message.
before the last super chats and the memes, I do have to say, am I right? Being a freaking medieval pope would have been better than like P. Diddy and Freddie Mercury.
It was very similar to P. Diddy, actually.
Like the ultimate, like it would be, I would have preferred to be a medieval pope than to be a 1980s rock star. Like just like hair metal rock stars got less booty, less ladies, less power, less money. Like AC/DC in its heyday could not consume as many drugs, as much alcohol, and get as much booty as freaking those medieval popes did. So like,
it's true though. But it's true.
Hey, there is some. I will say some people go too far with the Dark Ages. There's a lot of great things that happened in the.
Oh
in the
no,
church
we've got our
during the Middle
charlatans
Ages.
too. Like John C. Bennett was doing horrible things in Nauvoo in the name of God, and he deserved every ounce of his excommunication. Like look, like any good system, there's gonna be bad apples. But hot damn, dem bad apples, I would go bobbing for dem bad apples.
They were amazing. Yeah.
That was,
All right, last few
geez.
super chats. Okay, so Henrik's going to school. This one is a tough one because this could take 3 hours, and we don't have 3 hours. Says, what did the Great Apostasy actually look like? He asks, was it a sudden coup with book burnings? Why were the apostles and the priesthood taken away?
Okay, this is just a very quick answers. What did the Great Apostasy actually look like? People don't understand that the Great Apostasy is not a single event. It's a long-term event that took place over time once the central authority was lost. Once the central authority was lost, you had schism and doctrinal drift that happened over time, and that's what it looked like over time as it got worse and worse and worse as there was more and more schism, more and more doctrinal drift. Why were the apostles and the priesthood taken away? That is the $1 million question. That's what Joe should have focused on as the primary argument, is why would God allow this to happen? The problem is the history just is what it is. Why God allows things to happen.
Well, the same
in
reason
history.
he always does. It's the people turn their hearts away from Christ. What do you think the Apostle Paul was begging people to do in every one of his epistles?
Yes,
said-
and I would say that it's the world was not going to accept a centralized institution. Okay, what did Jesus have over his head when he was crucified? It was King of the Jews. The idea was, if you centralize a growing bodies movement in, hey, these are our leaders, like these are the guys that are the central authority. Guess what the other major central authorities will do? They will cut off your head.
They will kill you.
Exactly. And the irony is, and I pointed this out in the debate, the Catholic Church eventually would do that as well. They would kill anyone who would come up and say, well, I'm actually a prophet of God. And so it wasn't until we had a place with religious liberty that such a centralized institutional structure could actually have a chance. And they almost snuffed it out in America. We barely...
Right.
Yes,
Right.
the restoration could not. The restoration through Joseph Smith could not have happened without Protestantism, and that's why the official stance of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints on people like Martin Luther is that they were inspired of God. Okay, now inspired doesn't mean correct, but necessary for the progress of His people. Okay,
All right, I like it.
And
I
by
like
the
it.
way,
All right,
the other thing, Jonah, is you have a great phrase for this. The great apostasy, guys, yes, sometimes it was disbelief. Oftentimes it was disbelief. But the apostasy was just as much ink as it was blood.
Oh.
Like the
Right.
slaughterhouse of the 3rd, 4th, 5th century, the Muslim hordes coming up from the Arabian Peninsula and wiping out and taking over like basically almost all of the Western world.
Right.
And then like the Western European Middle Ages, like the conquests of just nation states wiping out entire believing populations at a time.
Right.
That's also part of the great apostasy. And it's great not because of a big thing that happened once. It's great because of a big thing that happened over time. Okay. So yeah, next one. Hit it.
All right. Joshua Martin says, great job, Jacob. I still think the best argument for the apostasy is the closing of the canon. Something changed and they admit it. Thoughts?
I don't think that's the best example.
I think it's a great one.
No,
I do
I
think all
think
of a
it's
sudden
a
the
good
Bible
one.
just like, hey, we're going along.
Yeah, but
got
hold on. We
revelations.
haven't had
Oh, what the heck happened? Like, why did it stop?
Yeah, but hold on. People, that's what the polygamy deniers, or we're not supposed to call them deniers because that's mean. The polygamy
They're deniers. Just call them polygamy deniers.
Okay.
Delusional.
No, stop. The polygamy come on, what's the word? Come on, our boy Dave, he told us skeptics. There we are. That's the word we're supposed to use. So that's what the polygamy skeptics say is that, hey, well, prophets preach just like musicians make music. If there is no new revelation, that's evidence that we don't have a prophet. To me, that doesn't hold up to the 400 years of lack of revelation that existed in between the Old Testament and the New Testament, right? And then also...
or the fact that none of the New Testament authors thought they were writing scripture at the time they were writing it. What's to say that things being written by our prophets and apostles today won't be considered scripture in the future?
Yes.
It's just a bad standard.
Okay. So anyway, I know that's just a super chat. Let's go to the next one, Jacob. We're catching
All right,
up.
last super chat. Jacob messed up by starting out with zingers and not focusing solely on his definition of what an apostasy was in his opening, and it went downhill from there. And he didn't say, literally, write this down.
Hold on, let me read it, because this is something that's a little bit ironic. Now, I did make a couple jokes at the beginning to kind of like keep it lighthearted a little bit and say, hey, all you Protestants better be praying the rosary if Joe wins. Like, obviously, I'm making some jokes there, but I literally said this. I said this. I want it. I have a section here in my on my document. It says literally frame debate. Okay, so how is Jacob going to frame the debate? I say, so what is the great apostasy? I want you all to write this down. Today, when I talk about the apostasy, I mean the demonstrable doctrinal and institutional corruption that inevitably resulted from the loss of the authority to receive ongoing binding revelation for the entire body of believers. So I defined apostasy, and then I said, look, we both agree Christ established one true visible church, institutional church, and that institution either has had a continual existence or there was an institutional apostasy. Those are the two options. So I basically have laid out the stakes of the debate. Either you have continuous or you don't. I'm on the side of you don't. Okay?
All right.
And then I said, and here is what Joe must do as a Roman Catholic to win the debate. If he's a Roman Catholic, what is the Roman Catholic claim? He must prove that the Catholic claims about the continual existence of the fullness of the institutional church are true. He must prove that the Bishop of Rome, the Pope, has always had universal jurisdiction over all believers. He must show that he was infallibly guided by God in such a way that no saving doctrines were lost or added to, right? So I laid out what Joe has to do to win, right? He has to show this continual institution, because I do believe that, and I believe Catholics are right, that they're the only real other option in town. And then I said, here's what I have to show. I have to show what history demonstrates. that the Bishop of Rome never had universal jurisdiction in the earliest days of the church. He never was anything more than a local bishop. And second, that the practices and teachings of Jesus Christ have been corrupted and added to over the centuries by the popes. That was the debate. And I made that argument. So I didn't say I don't have a burden of proof. I just explained that here's what Joe's burden is. Here's what my burden is. If we're going to argue about the great apostasy, which is the claim that there isn't a continually existing institutional church. Like, that isn't me burden shifting. That's me just explaining literally what this debate is about.
It was excellent. I don't know how anybody ever missed it because it was totally obvious to me. All right, but people, we're going to call off the memes because y'all aren't liking the stream. Not enough likes in the stream. So we're going to keep these memes bottled up and bury them in a hill so that thousands of years later, when mankind is ready for the glory, that they can come dig them up because we're not putting in the likes, people.
Okay, should we do this? Should we do this randomly, or should we just do these in order of how they were placed in the Discord? I haven't seen these yet, so this is just my raw reaction.
You're the captain. You put up whatever you want, and we'll talk about it.
Okay, pick a number between 1 and 27. And we'll start
really
there.
27?
Yeah, there's 27 memes that people threw in the Discord. There hasn't been 27 days. This is like 10 a day. So you choose, Jacob. You're the guest of honor. You choose.
I don't know. Let's go with 4.
Oh, okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so here we go with the memes. This is gonna be absolute insanity here. So here we go. Meme number 1.
Just everyone knows, I didn't make these memes. I don't endorse these memes.
Yes,
if these are out of control or inappropriate, I may laugh, but I didn't make them.
Okay.
Jacob signed off on all of these memes. Absolutely.
Okay, so here we go. Here's the first one. Joe, this is the Anakin Skywalker meme. Joe, if Catholicism is true, then there was no apostasy. Jacob, but Catholicism isn't true because liar.
Liar.
That's kind of true.
He called you a liar? He's on his review calling you deceptive and lying?
They use the word lying. I was so disappointed when I heard that. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Look, you won't say it, but I can say it. Joe, you should be ashamed of yourself. Jacob brought you to Utah out of good faith. You toured Welfare Square. He was your friend. He was nothing but cordial.
I'm still Joe's friend. Just because we're gonna go and talk it out and hug it out.
I'm not friends with liars. People that I know lie are disqualified from my friendship.
We gave you a Catholic venue with a Catholic moderator.
Look, there was some confusion about exactly what the nature of the topic was.
But that's confusion. That's not lying. That's not to me, that is beyond hyperbolic. And becomes a rhetorical argument that I feel is below an interlocutor as high as Joe Heschmeyer. I feel that is below Joe Heschmeyer to multiple times say that you were lying. I'd like to think that we got
talk it out. You'll see.
Okay.
All right.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Okay, let's do number 9. What's 9?
Okay, so I'm erasing that one. Number 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Here we go. It's the Who Would Win White meme. Staff apologist, speaker, author, and blogger. He hosts Shameless Popery YouTube channel, author on Catholic doctrine, history, and liturgy, litigation attorney, seminarian with degrees in history, philosophy, and theology. A boy who done the reading. Okay. And there's Jacob. By the way, the memes coming out of you now in the apologetic world, Jacob, are really funny. The red flag meme. Also, we need to make a meme out of you on the back of the golf cart with Cameron Bertucci, where you're like talking like crazy and he's just like sitting there patiently listening. And it's like, it was tight like unto a dish or something. I think,
there's a lot of, there definitely were moments like that for sure.
Yeah,
Cameron's a good listener and I'm a good talker.
That poor guy, man.
Give me number 8.
Okay, so number 8 right here. Here is number 8. It's Russell M. Nelson holding the keys of Peter. Is that a real picture or is that AI?
That's actually real.
Oh,
he went to tour in Rome, and there was a big statue of St. Peter, and he grabbed the key.
Oh,
pretty good,
dude.
All right, give me number 7.
That's a flex. That's funny. Okay, so here's number 7. LDS versus Catholic reactions to watching the apostasy debate. Awesome, right? There's the Pope.
Look at that face. Look at that face. Francis is not happy.
The Pope is so patient with his people. So patient. What a good guy. I like that Pope.
Hold on. Do number 5, I think it is. That one, I may have a comment on that one.
Okay, so number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's the one that says, is it the boxing one with Jacob Hansen?
No. Oh, shoot. Are we not in the same order?
I've already erased him. Yeah. The number
Dude,
of
just bring them up. Just rat-a-tat-tat.
Okay, then I'm just going to go in
whatever.
order. I'm just going to go in order here from the very beginning. So
it's the one that says, when did the Catholic Church start, with the gray NPC face?
Okay,
We'll get there.
When did the Catholic Church? No, he's got a request. We can do the request. Oh, here we are. When did the Catholic Church start? What do you mean? And then it's got to go. I got to make it smaller.
This is a little bit more inside because he wants to ask that question, and I gave it like 1965, but I wanted to draw out this very idea of like, look, if you're going to talk about the church, you have to say that the essence of the institutional church in the Catholic tradition is the papacy. If you don't have the papacy, you don't have the Catholic Church. And so then that would shift the debate into ask what he's really asking. When you ask, when did the Catholic Church start? You're asking, when did the papacy start? And that was my whole argument in the debate, is exactly that fact. So that's why I asked him what he meant by the Catholic Church, because then you have to define what it is. And you have to show that all of the elements essential to the Catholic Church go all the way back to the beginning.
I didn't understand Cameron's strategic move on posting that individual highlight. I get it. He's Catholic, and he's not just a regular Catholic. That brother's a super Catholic. Like, he had a Protestant channel, from what I understand, if I understand the history correctly, that was all in on just regular, normal Christianity, right? And then he discovers, if the story he told me was correct, he basically kind of discovers some philosophical, I don't want to say snafus, but weaknesses in the argument of Protestantism, and then says, whoa, how do I handle these? And in his inquiry of how do I handle these, he ends up being convinced of the Catholic position more, and then ends up converting to Catholicism there as a public figure already well known for his Protestantism. Like, I have nothing but respect for that, because that requires an insane amount of integrity. As Elder Bednar says, that's a high fidelity man right there, brother. Yeah. I
told him that to his face. I said, man, the fact that you were willing to you're the real deal. Like, when you are like, I don't care, this is how I make my living, but I'm going to put all of that at risk to convert, bro.
Dude, nothing but respect, right? But then when he posted that one part where he says, I can't remember what the title was, but it was something along the lines of, this is when Mormons think the Catholic Church started. And it was in the Q&A section, if I remember correctly, where somebody says, well, when do you think the modern...
No, it was Joe's cross-ex. When Joe was cross-examining me, he asked me about that. And so...
All right.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Well, when you said that, in its modern iteration, it started in 1965, that's an obvious appeal to humor to demonstrate a point. Like, if you're trying to talk doctrinal drift, and then you name the most recent, what some could consider an ecumenical council, Vatican
Well, what's funny?
II.
What's funny is that
that's
you guys know
funny.
Do you guys know what sedevacantists are? Sedevacantists are groups that broke off from the Catholic Church after Vatican II in 1965. Literally, that is their claim. Their claim is that after 1965, this institution that calls itself the Catholic Church isn't the real Catholic Church, and it's being run by a false pope, and it's fallen into an apostasy. So, again, there's a lot to be said about all this.
We have memes on that too.
Hit it. Okay. So next, so I'm erasing that meme, going to the next one. Here we go. It says, it's a picture of the church we're in. It says, Joe Heschmeyer, this debate is about the apostasy, not the absence of Christ's church. Literally everyone. And then there's a bunch of superimposed faces of what? Okay. You're gonna have to explain that one. It's a funny looking meme, but
this debate is about the apostasy, not the absence of Christ's church. And you're like, that is the apostasy, dude. What are you talking about? And everybody's just going, what? So strange. So strange.
I did think I would say, as somebody that was there in person, Jacob, when when Joe continued and when they tried to establish the narrative that you were shifting. After to me, you did a very good job in your opening statement of explaining why you were taking the position you were taking. And to me, it didn't seem like an out of place argument as just a layman. So I think the average layman was smelling what you were stepping in. So yeah, that was
we gotta go just because I don't know if we're gonna get to every meme. We have to get to the Lyndon B. Johnson meme.
We're getting to every meme.
Okay, we're doing it.
Let's
Okay,
start
here's the next
rattling
one.
them off.
Here's the next one. We're just gonna we're rattling these off. Here's the next one. Oh wait, I gotta frame it better. So it's the dupified look meme. It says Catholic, Mormons send everyone to hell. Catholic, heresy, we only send non-Christians to hell. Then Catholic blonde on the bottom says, we also send non-Trinitarians to hell. Then Mormon, wait, you guys still believe in hell? Jeez, that's funny. Okay, that was a good one. Next one up is, we're going to go actually right from the beginning. I'm just going to start from the beginning. Okay, so this is, is this the logo of Shameless Popery? What? Oh, no,
it is.
Ashamed of the Popery. Oh,
Okay, the
savage.
guy's channel is Shameless Popery. And when Jacob says, do you need a pope? He's like, no, I mean, what are you talking about? It blew my mind. You're Shameless Popery. He couldn't muster a breath to defend the Pope. It was nuts to me. Nuts.
Okay. Well, he could muster a breath. I don't want to be hyperbolic.
I can be hyperbolic.
Okay. All right, so I'm erasing that one. Next one. The apostasy is the butterfly. Joe Heschmeyer is the anime character. Is this a debate on 19th century Utah polygamy?
Yeah, you know that one. That one's self-explanatory. Yep.
Okay, erasing that one. Next one. Here's Cameron Bertucci. Oh, by the way, dude. Cameron Bertucci, that guy gets optics, dude. His like
Dude,
YouTube, yeah, like I jokingly when I came in, I thought we were like meeting some PR people that were going to sit down Jacob Hansen and say like, dude, don't embarrass us in front of Catholics. We're trying to build bridges with these people. Don't burn it down. That's like literally when Jacob told me, he said, yeah, we might be meeting with some like, PR people. You're welcome to come. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, oh, sweet. Can I get some behind the scenes footage? Like, this would be cool. I knew we might do something like at Temple Square, but I thought that was them like giving us some free tickets and a pass. Like, I didn't realize we were doing the whole like going a golf cart thing. And when I walk in and I saw Cameron Bertucci there and they wanted us all to introduce each other, you can forgive me if I overstep my bounds, Jacob, but I was like, yeah, I know who Cameron is. I was like, I stole his profile from my Tinder avatar. You know what I say? Because he just looks like the coolest guy. Like perfect hair in front of a guitar in like the man cave of man caves,
Yeah.
And when he showed up in like this awesome suit that looked like he was either about to kill somebody, but in the most stylish way possible, I literally told him it was something along the lines of like, you dress the way my wife wishes I dressed. Like it was so dang good looking. I was like, oh man, we got something to learn from these guys. At least I do. So anyway, here's Cameron Bertuzzi that says, presenting Joe Heschmeyer from Shameless Popery. Does the church need a pope? And then he says in response, Joe Heschmeyer, a pope, you gross. Okay, explain that one to me. Did he
Okay, but that's literally
How do you not understand that one?
Jacob says, so do you need a pope? And it was like the flailing, the scrambling. It was like watching a chinchilla spin. He's like, oh, no, I mean, you don't need a pope. I don't anything to say.
I guess I just don't remember that part. Okay.
All right, next one.
Next one is, this is the civil rights guy or the pastor meme. I can't remember.
Yeah.
The number of non-Mormons telling Mormons what Mormons believe. It's too darn high.
That's right. That's right. Next, we have boxing.
Next, we've got boxing. Okay, now these are all framed up right. Jacob Hansen, Catholics who didn't bother to learn about LDS theology before debating him.
Okay, but actually though, right? Am I right though?
Takes
more than 10 seconds of Google, people. Takes more than 10 seconds of Googling.
Well, and also we shouldn't just say Catholics. We should say those that are kind of like aggressive
anybody.
towards us.
I do say
Yeah.
this. I do wish Joe and I had a conversation before this debate. I will admit that. I wish we had taken the time to try and understand a little bit more about each other's positions. I think that Joe, that would have created less sort of confusion in all of this.
You know
'Cause
what
I
I'd
think
love to see? I would love to see you guys going tit for tat over history. That's kind of what I thought it was going to be. Because like we can basically all agree that by the Nicene Creed, the nature of God had been voted on by man and no longer believed through revelatory and kind of priesthood memes, not memes, but means. That they came after the nature of God first. And why? I think they came after the nature of God first because the nature of God had already been argued in its wholeness with all the Greco-Roman philosophers.
Yeah.
And that's why
Yeah.
Aristotle's God is what the Nicene Creed God ended up becoming. You know, the
All right.
unmoved
Okay, next one.
mover. Yeah. Okay, keep going. Here's the next one. Thanks for keeping me on track. Boom. Next meme. It's Jordan Peterson. Without conformity, truth has been lost. And then here's...
Not conformity, without continuity.
Oh, sorry. Without continuity, truth has been lost. Then here's... What's her name? I can't remember her name.
Kathy Newman.
Kathy Newman. Yeah, she's the so what you're saying is woman.
Yeah.
So you're saying Amos chapter 8 isn't referring to the northern kingdom's impending capture by Assyrian invaders during the 8th century BC?
We got another Kathy Newman meme. We have a twofer. Here's the next one.
Okay, here's a twofer. So by kingdom, you're saying of the Roman papacy, there shall be no end. Jesus is just...
This actually was an important distinction, though, in the debate, is this idea that, like, what do you mean when you're talking about the church? Now, church can be used in two senses, I pointed out in the debate. It can refer to the body of believers or the institution governing the body of the believers. We don't believe the body of believers was gone. That's not what we believe. We believe that they lacked a fullness of the institution to govern them. And that's what we believe was restored. So...
Yeah. All right. Okay, Bernie Sanders.
Okay, next one is Bernie Sanders. Here we go. Everyone else talking about the LDS saints ever. I am once again asking that you trust a non-LDS saint on what LDS saints believe.
Every time.
Dude,
Every time.
it's
All right,
so
next one.
true. Wait, but hold on. I want to get Ryland from Ether's Elephant to do this on a legitimate like Google survey. You know how Pew Research did the research on who knows their scriptures best, and before they did the name change of Mormons always won. Like who knows their scriptures more? Do you remember that, Jacob?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would really like to get people like Cameron Bertuzzi, Joe Heschmeyer, so on and so forth, to just write down the top 10 Catholic doctrines. Like, you know, in terms of continuing authority, things said ex cathedra, or like whatever, and just steel man their own positions, and then go to BYU, and then get all of us to just steel man Mormon positions, and then go to like, I don't know, University of Notre Dame, and then just see which populace can steel man the other side better. And I would argue that the average college student age Latter-day Saint young man can steel man Catholic positions far better based off of the literature that we read than Catholic college students can steel man Mormonism based off the literature that they read. Like there is a great divide in the interfaith conversation based off of just plain old steel manning. So, okay, next one here is, I don't know what you call this. It's the office meme, I guess.
Yeah.
Corporate needs you to find the differences between this picture and this picture. They're the same picture. Oh, hey, holy crap. This is the living embodiment of the example I made like an hour ago.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh. Somebody thought the exact same thing I'm doing. Dude, chat, I never saw this meme before in my life. That is amazing.
Cardin, because you and I are just geniuses. Cardin, we're just geniuses.
Did you make
and
that
me
one,
both.
Jonah?
Look, all these memes were made by Jacob. I didn't make any.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's funny.
right.
Okay, that one's a race.
They're
Next
all made
one.
by Jacob.
Oh, here comes your Lyndon B. Johnson one. What's this one say? I'm
This one-
nervous. I'm nervous, dude. I'm nervous.
This
Okay,
is the
says
best one.
Lyndon B. Johnson signing the Catholic Church into law circa 1965. Oh, jeez.
That was funny. I have to admit, that's pretty funny.
Oh, dude. Okay.
I was
that is-
joking, people. The Catholic Church, depending on how you define it, if you define it just by its like official teachings, like those have changed. But obviously, I don't think the Catholics define their church that way. I don't define my church by its teachings. I define the church by the central and ultimate authority institutionally. That's what the institution is. If we did not have the keys of the kingdom of heaven, the fullness of those keys, which rest only in the president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, we would not have the fullness of the institutional church.
You know, Jacob, it's really sad you have to explain your own memes. You know?
So here's Martin Luther. He's stamping something on the door. What does it say, Jonah?
Debate has been canceled due to Joe not understanding what the topic actually is.
Oh my gosh. You guys.
Savage.
Oh, but the next one's so good. The flex tape one's so good. I
Okay,
love
here it
this
is. Here it is. Here it is. What does it say? Jonah, read it out.
Joe Heschmeyer, there's a big leak. Centuries of apostolic absence, doctrinal corruption, and political usurpation. Conclave. Just slap the conclave. It'll fix everything.
Somebody brought that up. The conclave argument that he's made, he's like, oh, yeah, if we don't have a pope, that's how we have a conclave. Somebody brought this up, though. They said, but where do you have evidence that there was a conclave that selected the first pope?
Well, and he's still avoiding the question. Your question was, hypothetically, could you lose the fullness if you say lost the pope, for instance? And he's like, oh, you just have conclave. And you're like, oh.
Well, but someone else brought up, think about this, and this is a good question to ask. Where was the conclave that selected Linus as the first bishop of Rome to be the pope? It doesn't exist.
Right.
There is no, in fact, there's like no examples of conclaves in the early church. A conclave is a new thing.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
Now, it's fine if it's a new thing, though, because if you're claiming there was a centralized authority who speaks on behalf of God, such as a pope, ex cathedra, or the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints prophet, then fine. A
Nope.
sheet can come down.
Wrong, because they don't believe that you can have new public binding revelation. Everything that had to have been established in the church was apostolic in origin. So therefore, any of the doctrines of the church, including the way that the pope would be selected, would fall under the, it would have to be apostolic. So you have to show that the mechanism by which a pope is selected is apostolic itself in origin. And they
It's
can't
a shame
do
we
that.
couldn't have. It's a shame we couldn't have actually had that debate. Anyways,
That was the whole debate.
next.
That was the debate I thought we were going
I
to be
know.
having. Like I literally
know.
thought he's going to come in and he's going to use Catholicism to refute the great apostasy, but he didn't.
yeah. Okay, next one.
Well, I think this debate was still a success, though, because this is what I texted Cameron. Is I said, I think we need to do more of these because, A, hearts have been broken. It's like when you're playing hearts and somebody puts down the first heart. Now everybody
Right.
can start putting down hearts. I think at the end of the day, you didn't descend into like a shouting match. You didn't descend into just shameless religious bigotry. I got along with Cameron and Joe pretty dang well. I think they're cool. And I think a conversation follow-up I think you almost need to do the debate just to get something started. It's like when you're dating a girl, like you almost want to get the first kiss out of the way because you can start acting like a normal couple together. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like you need to have the debate just so that then you can have the follow-ups where the good conversations happen and you get things out of the way. And they were great dudes. Like I stand by the statement that I really enjoyed working with Cameron and Joe. I thought they were wonderful. And they didn't descend into just plain old religious bigotry. I think the Catholics that were in the room, because of you, felt a lot more comfortable with their Mormon neighbors. And I think that a lot of the members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, a.k.a. Mormons, were very impressed by Joe Heschmeyer's width and breadth of his knowledge. And I think Mormons make a mistake sometimes of thinking that all Catholics are cultural. because maybe we serve missions in places where Catholicism is far more cultural, such as Argentina, where you and I served, okay, and not realizing that, no, there's a rich history of deep and profound philosophy that has kept the Catholic Church together for 2,000 years, and that cannot be disrespected. And that's a blind side that I think a lot of North American members of our church have that foreign members do not have of Catholicism. So
yeah, and yeah, they were good dudes, but don't come out online and call Jacob a liar, and then he lured you in to deceive you. That you owe Jacob an apology. Joe, if you're watching this, you owe Jacob an apology.
I do not endorse this. We're gonna have a conversation.
I don't care if
It'll go
Jacob
just
endorses
fine.
it.
I'm not demanding an apology here, guys. I think it'd be fun for us to have a good conversation to discuss his claims.
I don't care if you endorse it or not. We invited you, we hosted you, we gave you hospitality and friendship, and gave you a worthy debate, and you stabbed him in the back, and you deserve it. We deserve an apology. That was
all right. Enough out of that.
Okay. We can go. Okay, duly noted, Jonah. I'm halfway in between Jacob. I'm halfway in between Jonah. I got to tell you, in a bar fight,
guys, are we that Mormon that we can't call a spade a spade?
No, I've already said. No, I've already said that bothered me, but also I've already said it. We've already said it once. You know what I'm saying? So,
all right.
Okay, so here we go. Next one is, oh shoot, can I Control Z? I actually just erased one too many. Control Z. You can't get rid of. I accidentally erased one. I'll have to go back and find it. Here's the next one. It's the pirate meme from Captain Phillips.
I'm your Christ now. I'm your Christ now. This is Plato.
Actually, no. You actually messed that one up. This one actually should be, I'm the captain now. And it should be Catholic Church talking to their Bishop of Rome to the other bishops, because that's what happened. Literally in the history, my understanding of it is they're all equals, and then eventually the Bishop of Rome or the Bishop in Rome is like, "Hey, Peter died in our hometown. I'm the captain now."
I'm the captain now.
Okay, here's the next one. I found it. It's Joe Heschmeyer back saying Irenaeus doesn't say all apostolic churches enjoy preeminent authority, and then there's.
Irenaeus literally saying all the apostolic churches enjoy preeminent authority. Well, it's hilarious. Jacob reads the quote, reads that exact quote, and Joe says, well, he doesn't say exactly what you just said. He exactly said. And all my kids listen, they're like, wait, didn't he just say exactly that?
Really Irenaeus says it is within the power of all in every church to reckon up those who were by the apostles instituted bishops in the churches. So he says, look, all of these apostolic churches, all the ones that were founded by apostles, where their bishops were actually called, he says that, that's where you test orthodoxy. And then he says, since, however, it would be very tedious in such a volume as this to reckon up all of the successions of all of the churches. So he's like, look, I can't go through and do all of this for every church because it would just take too long. So I'm just going to use Rome as the example here because we already have that one. I'm going to use it for an example, and everyone should agree with it because of its preeminent authority. It's like, bro, he's talking about a class of churches, the apostolic churches, saying they're the trustworthy ones. And then he says, and Rome, we're going to use Rome as the example here in this letter.
Okay, so now we've got the astronaut meme up here. It shows our boy Pope Leo, the Chicagoan, and then the astronaut looking at Earth saying, "Wait, it's all apostasy?" ? Always has been.
Always has been.
Okay.
Now the next one. Okay, so you have King Theoden. Do you have that one?
Yeah. I've got a thing of thoughtful faith. When our Mormons debate you, so we'll convert to Eastern Orthodox mid-debate. Is that the next meme that you want me to put up?
Yeah, so put up King Theoden. So this is what happens when you're debating a Mormon who beats you so bad that you end up converting to Eastern Orthodoxy mid-debate. This is what this looks like.
That's so he said, when our Mormon debates... I think he meant to say A and autocorrected. So when a Mormon debates you so well that you convert to Eastern Orthodoxy,
I will say, I was surprised to hear them just kind of be like, well, but Eastern Orthodoxy could be true. And I'm like, I was just thinking, except for all the reasons that you guys have always given why Eastern Orthodoxy lacks the fullness of the institution. Like,
Yeah.
I agree. Like, Catholics, I want to stand on your doctrine harder than you do, because
Right,
I
right.
agree with you. You
Right.
need a central ultimate adjudicator. The problem with Eastern Orthodoxy is that it fractures because it doesn't have a central authority to adjudicate between the differences of opinions between the bishops.
Yeah.
Okay, we got 1,000 new people in the chat. Thank you guys for showing up. If you have any questions for Jacob Hansen here, now's your chance. You can send us a super chat, and as long as it's germane to the conversation, we've got a little bit of time left here. We only got about 15 minutes before we got a jam. So if you guys want to send us any super chats, make sure that you guys send them right now. But here's your chance to challenge Jacob Hansen on his lying and deceptive attacks upon... No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, skip down to the Carl Winslow meme. Can you see that?
Okay, I don't know who Carl Winslow is.
Oh, yes, you do.
Which one's Carl Winslow? There's only 2 left. You mean Catholics right now? Oh, you're talking about the Die Hard meme?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. So here's the Die Hard meme. I got to pull it up in the regular browser so you can actually see what it says. Here we go in 3, 2, 1. Okay, Catholics right now, we're going to need some more debaters, I guess.
I love that one. That immediately came to my mind. The fallout from this debate. By the way, Die Hard, best Christmas movie ever. This is after the FBI guys get blown up in their helicopter. Sorry, spoiler alert. And he says, I think we're going to need some more debaters, I guess. This is Catholics looking and saying, wait a minute. This amateur LDS dad came into our church with our audience and our moderator and debated, theology degree, Rights for Catholic Answers, multiple author Joe Heschmeyer lawyer, and beat the tar out of him.
So this is
maybe we need more debaters.
This is actually what I think happened. I was insanely impressed by Joe Heschmeyer's width and breadth of his knowledge, his historical acumen, his ability to connect dots in a very information. He's funny. Like he had some solid zingers where I audibly laughed out loud. And
Joe?
Joe, yeah.
Yeah, no. Joe's a sharp guy. I really like Joe.
Joe is sharp and
I was nervous to debate Joe. When you're going to talk about the papacy with a guy who runs the channel called Shameless Popery and has written multiple books on it, like I was nervous.
Yes. So I was very impressed with him, but also I realized a flaw in his reasoning. It seems like, and this is modifying my approach to my interfaith dialogues with Catholics. And to a certain extent, Cameron Bertuzzi kind of fell into this camp a little bit as well. Not as much, definitely Joe. But it seems like Joe is like all the time I say there are 2 Christendoms in North America. There's the Catholics and then there's the Protestants, and they fight all of the time. And then there's the little 4 million Mormons here in North America. We're almost like the libertarians. There's like Republicans and Democrats, and then there's always that little 1% of libertarians that like might be a swing vote somewhere, right? But like the Republicans and the Democrats of North America are the Catholics and the Protestants, and they're always fighting to the death with each other. And then here's little Mormons down there. I realized that Joe Heschmeyer, all of his arguments, it seems like he is so battle-hardened by defending Catholicism against Protestant claims that he made the mistake of assuming that Mormons are just Protestantism 2.0. And so he was going to use and be effective by honing a lot of Protestant arguments. He doesn't realize, no, bro, we're with you on half this stuff. In fact, we're with you on like 90% of this stuff. In fact, I would argue that Mormonism is almost more Reformed Judaism and Catholicism than it is Reformed Protestantism. Does that make sense? So like when you're debating a member of our church, like we've got some airtight theology through restoration of why we do things a very specific way that you think is just goofy because it's non-Catholic and it's not Protestant. But that doesn't mean that it's that far away from you. It's actually a lot closer than you realize. So like you're not going to defeat us in debates by like co-opting Protestant arguments. You're going to defeat us in debates by analyzing your own history. So anyway, okay. Next one. Okay, Die Hard is over with. If we got any super chats, guys, make sure you guys send those in. Here's your shot. Take a jab at Jacob. I want you to take jabs. I want you to take jabs. I want to see what he says.
So the last meme could be my last one. I got a jet here, but the last one shows how old we are. It's the Highlander meme. You bring that up. It's in the Discord card. Not the total bottom, but close to the bottom.
Okay, Highlander. Oh, here we go. Here we go. It's up.
This is going to recur. Jacob, this is the first time you've seen this, but you will see this a lot more in your life, I have a feeling.
Hans Gender, the legend continues.
This is Hansender, the legend continues. Comes up against their champions and takes their souls.
I'm actually, it's funny. People will say this kind of stuff. I'm genuinely like nervous. Like, you guys, even good fighters eventually get knocked down. So when that happens, when I eventually get my clock cleaned by someone because I don't prepare right or whatever, like, don't lose faith.
No, Jacob,
I'm just a dad.
We have all left the church long ago. We've joined the church of Jacob Hansen. You fail us.
Yeah,
we're all gone, man. All our faith hinges on your performance in these debates, brother.
So, all right, we only got literally 9 minutes and 52 seconds left before I, press done on this thing. Jacob, before we're done here, your post-debate thoughts, man. How's it been post-debate?
It's been good. Like, overall, I mean, I'm a little. I don't like that it's being turned into sort of this calling foul thing. Genuinely, because I don't think that it was. Like, I think what I did in the debate, like, I stand by it. Like, I defined what I meant by the apostasy. I explained why I believe that Catholicism is really the only option in town to be able to refute the idea of an apostasy. And then I argued for that. And I pushed Joe to say, look, if you want to say that there wasn't a discontinuation or a rupture in the timeline of the institutional church, then you're going to have to show that that's the case. Now, people say, well, that's shifting the burden. But literally, I'm sitting here like, you guys, I don't know what else the burden would be for the other side. Like, each person has a burden in a debate, right? My burden was to show that there was a rupture in the continuous institution. The person who's claiming continuous institution, the opposite of a great apostasy, would need to demonstrate that. And so it wasn't me shifting the burden. And I think, just for clarity's sake, I think a lot of this comes down to the fact that I was arguing a negative proposition. I'm arguing in favor of something that I'm saying this continuous institution didn't happen, okay? Which would mean that the other side would have to demonstrate that it did have a continuous existence. So I know it's weird, but if you're arguing for a negative, that means the other side has to argue for a positive. And so I don't think people understood that. And I think that's caused confusion because I said, hey, Joe needs to do that. And then they're saying, well, you're burden shifting. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I mean, both sides have a burden in this.
Yeah.
And I was just explaining what that was.
Okay.
And you know, when you're watching a sports game and people complain about the refs, stupid. Stop complaining about the refs. We want to watch the game. And that's what happens after a debate when you're like, well, the burden of proof, I don't care. I just want to watch you guys debate.
Well, one thing.
Well, technically, the burden of proof, it's like, geez, here we go.
And now, to be fair to Joe, I also can empathize with Joe's frustration in the sense of, I think there was certain points that he expected for me to take in the debate. A certain sort of line of argumentation that's very typical for kind of like an average 19-year-old missionary. But I intentionally decided that I don't think that's the strongest case to the sort of broader audience. I think the strongest case for the great apostasy isn't in scripture. It's in history. And so I decided to just say, I'm going to just focus on history because I think this is an extraordinarily strong case. It doesn't require any scriptural interpretation. It doesn't require any Mormon claims to be true. It's just what history shows. And so I decided to go that route. Now, I think Joe didn't expect that approach. And I think that can be very frustrating when you prepare for a debate kind of expecting a certain line of argumentation, and then the person comes. It's like the worst fear for a debater is that the guy comes and he literally hits you from an angle that you didn't even expect.
It's like you're not expecting a haymaker, and then you get clocked with a haymaker. It's very frustrating.
Yeah.
Very frustrating.
Jeez, you're brutal, Jonah. You're brutal. Okay, the last two super chats here, Jonah. You want to read them really fast?
That's your super chats. We got not enough super chats for people. What is this from C. Randall?
Yep, Crandall Logan 584.
Brandon Logan 584 says, Brother Barnes, your salt and pepper is a good look on you. Thank you. Thank you. You know, on this channel, I've gotten a lot of compliments from other men about how handsome I am.
Yeah.
Still waiting for any from women, but when men seem to really appreciate my beard.
You're good looking.
Also, Crandall Logan 584 says, Jacob Hansen winning every debate. There can be only one. I love it. I love it. That's what we're going towards here. Taking their souls.
So before we read any of these last super chats that come in the last 3 minutes, I just want to do really quickly highlight the sponsor of this episode. Okay, actually, Angel Studios. They're a company that makes really cool Christian content for families. It's a streaming platform, and they help us with all kinds of things, not just keeping the lights on here in the studio, but they also give us free giveaways. I'm trying to actually get some tickets from their guild guys to get some giveaways for David. I want to do an analysis on there because there was straight up like a temple anointing ritual in that video. I don't know. Did you guys see it?
Yeah, I saw it. It was, by the way, it was a fantastic movie. It was really well done.
Yeah. I want to kind of do an analysis of how I really think the sterilization of ritual that happened in the Protestant Reformation, kind of like the eschewing of the icons and the relics and everything. I think like it's finally coming full circle. And that's actually something that Catholics in all of our interfaith dialogue really vibe with Mormons on, is this idea that like we actually believe in all the smells and bells, and we actually believe that there's like anointing with olive oil, and that's something lost in what? The great apostasy. And so now the ultimate like Protestant streaming service in North America, Angel Studios, right, is now straight up releasing movies where like ancient ritual now is just shown ostensibly on screen. And I just thought, man, I wonder if there was a member of our church involved in that production, because I was like, dog, that was about as Mormon a ceremony, a modern Mormon temple ceremony as you can get, dude. Like, I mean, it's we're moving on up. Apparently, we're moving on up. So, anyway, thank you very much, Angel Studios, for all of your contributions. They're very generous with us, and their guild gives us free tickets. Actually, we're going to be able to start giving away free tickets, free of charge, no purchase or affiliation necessary. They're just a giveaway from Angel Studios. Stay tuned to this channel, and you guys are going to start seeing those. They have been a very, very effective partner for whom we are very grateful. And Jacob, I actually showed up with merch to throw out, but I ended up not giving it to Joe and to Cameron. I was going to give them a gift. A, I kind of forgot. But B, I also got second thoughts on it. I brought them War in Heaven veteran hats. But then I realized, I was like, do Catholics believe in the... No, did Catholics posthumously excommunicate all of the patristic fathers that believed in a premortal life? So I wasn't sure if that would be like a cool gag gift or if it would be like perceived as like a heretical gift. So I ended up not giving it to him, you know. But we do have War in Heaven veteran hats available still in the merch store. If you screwed up somebody's Christmas gift, you can always say, oh, it's in the mail. I ordered you a War in Heaven veteran hat. And we'll do our best to say, yeah, they did it on. We'll lie on your behalf. It's an indulgence. Yeah. No, I'm just kidding. So anyway, all right. 2 minutes and 3 seconds here before we jam. Any last super chats to cover? No last super chats to cover. That's great. Okay, so where are you going next, bro? Jacob, where are you going next, man? For now, you're our champion.
Next big thing is going to be the debate on the Trinity, actually, at Ruslan's Bless God Summit in San Diego. That's going to be coming up in I think it's the first week of March. You have to check, but if you look up Ruslan Bless God Summit San Diego, if you Google that, you can see all the details and get tickets and all that. It is pricey. It's like a 3-day like event though.
Well,
but,
it's Protestantism. So of course it's pricey.
Yeah, so we're switching from the Catholics to the Protestants here for the next one to talk about the Trinity, but I'm excited for that debate. Should be real fun.
You know, I got to say, I loved going to that cathedral with Cameron. And was Joe there? I can't remember. Did he make it to the cathedral?
Oh, no. Joe wasn't able to make
Joe
it that day.
didn't.
He was preparing stuff.
But, you know, I wrote down, I want to start this new series called, actually, I won't say it because I don't want somebody to steal my, what's it called? My socials on it and my IP. But I want to start doing interfaith videos where I visit all these different churches. Not quite David Boyce 52 churches and 52 churches style, but I kind of like, you know, typical Mormon holy envy, as we call it, right? And so I've been starting to write down things that I like about other faiths, you know. And first thing that I wrote on there was and I know people are going to take issue with this because the Catholic Church is so wealthy, but I was like, it didn't seem like a business. Oftentimes when I go into these mega churches and these evangelical churches, they're so constantly hitting you up for money, and they're so constantly, and I'm willing to give it. Like the debate went so well at that Catholic church. I went up to Father Tully and I said, how can we contribute? Like, I know that this staff costs something. I know that. Well,
they didn't ask for a contribution to use the venue. They were just going to let us do it for free. But I was like, I ended up saying, no, I'd like to donate the proceeds or a certain portion of the proceeds to the parish.
Yeah. And I know that there's people that are going to make the cynical argument that like, yeah, well, the spoils of war of Western Europe for 500 years is how they have their wealth and they got more money than they know. Like, whatever. Okay. So I know the cynical arguments. Okay. But I very much appreciated that I never felt like I was getting hit up, and that actually made me want to be more generous. And so I really appreciated that. When we went to the Salt Lake Catholic Cathedral, it was beautiful. The choir was phenomenal. And I saw nothing but a bunch of people using their time and their talents and their energies to glorify God in the most stunning and beautiful way. And you missed out, Jonah. You missed out, bro.
Oh, tell me about it. I know.
Yeah. So anyway, all right, that's it for now, guys. Unfortunately, we got a jam, but thank you so much for hanging out with us, guys. It's been real and it's been fun. You guys stay on the line for 30 seconds before I go. It's been real and it's been fun. It's been real fun. For this and more, please make sure you check us out at wardradio.com.
I built a rocket